You may have heard it before. Do your cardio fasted and you're going to burn more fat. But is that actually true? Or is it just one of those fitness myths that sounds good, but it doesn't actually hold up? In today's episode, I'm going to break down one of the most common fat loss debates out there, and that's, does fasted cardio burn more fat? The short answer is yes, but not in the way that you think. And more importantly, not in a way that makes a big difference in your actual results. Today, we're going to dig into the physiology, the nuance, and what the evidence actually shows. Plus, I'm going to touch on fasting in general as a fat loss tool and talk about fasted cardio when it might be helpful, but when it actually might hurt you. All right, you guys, fasted cardio, does it burn more fat? Yes or no? There's going to be a lot of different things that I covered today, and I'm excited to talk about the answer to the question. I'm excited to talk about fasted in general. I'm excited to talk about when fasted cardio might be good, when it might not be good, and like what the actual truth of the matter is. So to start off and frame up this conversation, I want to talk just very generally speaking about why some people might think that fasted cardio burns more fat. So generally speaking, we know that the three macronutrients are protein, carbs, and fats. Protein is, for the most part, building blocks. It's our building blocks for our muscles, our tissues. It's not a fuel source per se. Carbs and fats are our fuel sources. Those are our two fuel sources. Generally speaking, carbs are going to be your quicker energy sources, your quicker fuel sources that are able to create ATP more quickly than fat is. Fat is your slower burning fuel source that can create a lot of energy, but only after a longer period of time. So it's slower to burn, slower to produce a large amount of energy. And so the idea is that, like, okay, if we have carbs and fats, both are energy source. If carbs are used for quick energy, for energy in the short term, then what if we get to the point where all those carbs get depleted and we don't have glucose in our system and our glycogen storage is very, very low? Then our body has no other option than to burn fat for energy. And so it kind of makes sense that fasted cardio burns more fat. And it's actually technically true when you're talking about the cardio session that you're actually doing in a fasted state. You are burning a slightly greater percentage of fat for fuel when you're doing cardio fasted compared to a same bout of cardio work when you have eaten something beforehand. If you're comparing apples to apples as far as the same exact workout in a fasted state versus the same exact workout in a non-fasted state, the workout in the fasted state will burn a little bit more fat. Now, does that mean that's going to lead to more body fat loss? Well, we're going to dive into that here in a second. But before we do, while we're on the topic of fat loss, you really should join us for the Fat Loss Forever workshop on Wednesday, August 13th at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central Time. This is going to be a workshop that allows you to open up your education, open up your mind, and open up your clarity to what you should be eating, how much of it, based off of your body size, your activity levels, and your goals. I love this workshop so much because I feel like it unlocks people's ability and belief in their ability to achieve their goals because of the education and the simplicity with which we break it down in the Fat Loss Forever workshop. So if you want to join, completely free, we'll hop on a Zoom call, me and a bunch of others. You can go to nickcarrier.com/fatloss to sign up for free today. Again, Wednesday, August 13th, 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central. Go to nickcarrier.com/fatloss to join me there and then. Let's go ahead and dive into the idea of, does doing fasted cardio end up leading to more fat loss overall if fat loss is your goal? So if total calories between two people are equal, that's kind of what we're going to be thinking about. If ingested calories are equal between two different people, one person doing fasted cardio, another person doing fed cardio, for lack of better terms, because that's really what's going to tell you whether or not something produces results, is when you don't change anything else in the experiment and you change one variable. And if the one variable we change is fasted cardio, then you will not lose more body fat. Let me tell you why. So let's say person A and person B are both consuming 2,000 calories. Let's say person A is doing fasted cardio. And so what that might mean is they finish dinner at 7 p.m. The next morning, maybe let's say they go in to the gym and do a 1 hour cardio session at 8 a.m. So they haven't eaten in 13 hours. And basically from 13 to 14 hours, they're doing cardio. And so they have depleted more of their glucose, more of their glycogen storage. So they're not using as much of that for their fuel as the person who has just eaten. So again, person A finishes dinner at 7, does a 1 hour cardio workout at 8. During that hour of time, they're burning a relatively larger percentage of fat for energy than the person who's doing fed cardio, because the person who finishes dinner at 7, wakes up, has breakfast at 6 a.m., let's say, and then does a cardio workout at 8, they do have some glucose and some glycogen fresh in their system. And so the body's going to tap into those things as fuel sources first to burn some energy. So during the cardio session from 8 to 9 a.m. for both of these people, the person who is fasted will burn more fat during that session, the person who is compared to the person who has eaten breakfast in the morning. But then we think about the totality of the day. The person who did fasted cardio and burned more fat for energy during the session is going to burn a higher percentage of carbs or glucose/glycogen for energy later in the day than the other person. The person who ate in the morning and then did cardio after having eaten breakfast will, comparatively speaking, burn a higher percentage of fat than the person who did the fasted cardio as they go throughout the day. So it ends up evening out. And so, yes, you might burn more fat within the cardio session that you're doing of fasted cardio, but overall, it all nets out to be the exact same. It balances out. So that's why fasted cardio isn't necessarily the magic that a lot of people might tout it to be. Now, on the flip side of that, the next question is fasted cardio bad? And the answer is absolutely not. Fasted cardio is definitely not bad. And I actually like doing fasted cardio a lot. For me, sometimes if I eat within an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours of doing a run, let's say, or a cardio session, I still feel like it's sitting around a little bit. Now, that's where we could talk about what you should be eating before your workout. And that's a conversation for a different episode where we talked about the perfect pre-workout meal based off of how soon you're eating prior to your actual workout session. So that's a conversation from a different story. You can listen to that podcast. If we're watching on YouTube, hopefully we'll put it up here and you can click on it. But fasted cardio is not bad. I love doing fasted cardio because sometimes I feel best on a lighter stomach when going out on a run or when doing a cardio session. However, one thing to keep in mind is that if you're doing low intensity cardio fasted, so your heart rate's maybe zone 2, maybe zone 3, and you're only doing it for about maybe 30 to 60 minutes, then you're probably not going to have too many negative side effects from not having eaten. However, if you're doing a high intensity cardio and or you're doing cardio for a longer period of time, maybe longer than 60 minutes, and you're doing all of that fasted, then I guarantee you your performance and maybe your energy levels aren't going to be what they could be if you had a little bit of fuel in your system. And so the only way that you can actually determine what works best for you is to try both. Try fasted cardio, try eating something a little bit beforehand, try eating a little bit different something beforehand and see what works best for you. So again, it's not like fasted cardio is bad. However, I just think that if you're going to do really high intensity cardio and or cardio for a long period of time, like greater than 60 minutes on a fasted schedule, meaning maybe you haven't eaten for, let's say 10, 12, 14, 16 hours, your performance is probably going to decline. You're never going to see any professional athlete who plays a sport where their game or their match or whatnot is longer than an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours. They're not going to do that fasted. They're not going to have not eaten for 10, 12, 16 hours, right? They got to fuel themselves in order to perform at higher intensities for longer durations better. So again, the idea of fasting for fat loss, is this the best strategy? One thing I don't want you to take away from this is that Coach Nick says fasting is bad. Because I don't think fasting is bad, especially when it comes to fat loss. Like, I think it really can work for a lot of people. Is it the best strategy to lose fat? What's best is person to person. What's best for me is not necessarily what's best for you. There's so many other questions that I would ask if I was your trainer and you asked me, is fasting the best strategy for me to lose body fat? I would ask what your goals are. I'd ask how much muscle you would have. I'd ask how much weight you have to lose. I would ask how active are you? What are your other activities that you do on a regular basis? And so So fasting can be a tool, it can be a strategy, and what's best for one person to the next is going to be very individual to them. But what you do need to understand from this conversation about fasting is that if you're going to compare two people where we're thinking about calories and protein, really the two biggest factors when it comes to people's ability to lose body fat, calories and protein. If person A is eating 2,000 calories and let's just say, call it 100 grams of protein, person B is eating 2,000 calories and 100 grams of protein. So the exact same number of calories and protein. And let's say person A is doing a 16-hour fast. So they're finishing dinner at 8 and then they don't eat again until noon the next day. Whereas the other person is just doing a normal, maybe 10 to 12-hour fast. So they finish dinner at 8 and then they eat breakfast at 8 the next day. But they still consume the same number of calories. Then they're going to have the same amount of fat loss over time. So it's really important to say that fasting is not the magic tool that's going to lead to fat loss. Now, fasting can be a tool that leads you to eat less, so therefore putting you in a caloric deficit and therefore leading to fat loss. And oftentimes just cutting out a meal might be what's best for people to implement a strategy that leads to fat loss. However, I think that for a lot of people, it's not a sustainable tool. And so you just want to think about those types of conversation. It's a tool. Is it the reason why fat loss works? Probably not. It's more about calories and protein. The last thing I'll say about fasting is there are a lot of people who say there's a lot of different benefits to fasting. I think there probably are some benefits to longevity. I think there probably are some benefits in terms of starving some cells and therefore eliminating some of the bad cells within your body. I think there's some benefits to mental clarity. I think there's some benefits as far as resilience and discipline when you practice fasting. But when it comes to fat loss, it is not the reason. It can be a piece of leverage that gets you to a caloric deficit, if you will. Before I wrap this up today, I want to remind you guys, if your goal is fat loss, which it might be if you're still listening, then you should join us for the Fat Loss Forever workshop on Wednesday, August 13th at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central Time. I'm going to make it clear. I'm going to make it simple, and I'm going to make it practical for you to actually hit your fat loss goals. And not just in the short term, but in the long term, and make the habits last and sustainable. So if you want to join us, go to nickcarrier.com/fat loss. Would love to see you on that workshop, nickcarrier.com/fat loss to sign up today. In general, fasted cardio can be a great thing for a lot of people to do. I feel great oftentimes when I do fasted cardio. Is it the reason why you're going to lose more body fat? No. Not when it comes to the total amount of calories that you burn across the day. It's more about the total number of calories and more about the protein intake are going to be the biggest factors when it comes to healthy body fat loss. And again, fasting in general, it can work. It can be a great strategy, but it's not magic, if you will. I hope you guys have enjoyed today, and I hope it's opened your eyes to what fasting does, what fasted cardio does and does not do. And so I hope you share it with a friend or family member that maybe fasts and thinks fasting is the best thing in the world. And maybe you share it with somebody who thinks fasting is the worst thing in the world, because I'm not saying either. I'm saying it can be a great strategy, but it's not magic. So if you're listening on the Apple Podcast app or on Spotify, make sure you hit the follow button. If you're watching on YouTube, hit like and subscribe down below. Also, you should watch this interview I did with Gary Brecka on anti-aging and longevity. I really, really think you'll love it. You can click this link to watch the video. If you're listening, you can click the link in the description. But other than that, I hope that this episode helps you get closer to the healthiest version of yourself. And ultimately, I hope it helps you to get closer and closer to your best you.